Hey, what's up, everybody? Video 44 coming in with another video. All right. So, Lakers. I hear we're interested in getting a big man in the market. According to Shams Charania, newly of ESPN, by the way, essentially the Lakers are canvassing the market for a center. I think it's a good idea, to say the least. I think that goes without saying. Question is what type of center are they getting? What type of options do they believe will be available to them? Are they casting a wide net, as people like to say? Or is this we think a guy specifically is available? Or we're getting rumblings of a possible movement situation where we're trying to get involved. And that part wasn't clear. But usually when it's like, okay, for example, Brook Lopez is on the market, you know, you will hear them say that rather than the Lakers are looking for a center. But essentially, that's left open for speculation. And as I speculate, I personally think the Los Angeles Lakers are going to be canvassing a specific type of big. I'd imagine they want somebody like Brook Lopez who could stretch the floor. Somebody that will be a permanent solution so that Anthony Davis can have a more permanent power forward position with our team. So I imagine they look at Anthony Davis as somebody who could potentially up his three-point shooting, but I wonder if they think it's logical to find a guy who can't shoot to play the center position to slap next to him. Spacing could be a little iffy if that three-point shot doesn't fall for AD, or if he opts not to take it, or whatever the case may be. So I would think they want to stretch five. A guy that's been linked to the Lakers a lot, a guy by the name of Nick Richards with the Charlotte Hornets. He looked pretty good in the preseason. I saw a couple of highlights with him involved. He looks like he's in good condition. That would be somebody I think could be a cost-effective trade piece. And you know, I've been talking a lot on here about how I would probably be willing to move Vanderbilt and Rui to try to bring myself the right piece. I had in mind like a Zion Williamson light type of piece, something, you know, explosive power forward. But I think if that player can be an explosive center or explosive power forward / center, whatever, somebody big could play both positions, that would be what I think the Lakers should be probably looking for right now. You know, I mean, the funny thing about it is I was thinking, like, you don't necessarily see an option to get certain names that you're hoping for, but a lot of times when you see trades done, you don't be players that you've heard anything about a lot of times. Sometimes it'd be guys that you never even thought would be available to end up being traded. Like we just saw with Karl Anthony Towns. Nobody even saw that coming. So for me, I wonder if that's another one of the type of situations. You know, I know there are teams out there who probably are not going to be able to re-sign certain players. You know what I mean? They got that on the horizon with a few guys they probably want to keep. So it'd be best to shed salary. That sort of thing I think is to be expected. Somewhere down the road, you're going to see teams try to get out from under contracts that maybe they regret signing in this collective bargaining agreement. And you're looking at D'Angelo Russell's contract, you look at Rui Hachimura's contract, and then you couple that with Vanderbilt's contract. If you're moving all of that and you're throwing in 2 picks, if that's what If that's what you want to do, I think it's a good idea to aim high for a real starter. Now, I don't know who's worth that to whom. I mean, that's a decent package if you ask me, especially if you're involving picks, which I wouldn't do, but I expect the Lakers to do. If I'm going to throw in my 2 first-rounders, which are 2 of the most valuable picks, period, because of the fact that the Lakers have an old core and probably ain't going to be very good those years, and I'm willing to throw in 2 forwards, one of which is an excellent defensive forward and a scoring forward, depending on what I'm aiming for, I might actually be able to get it. You know what I mean? I might be able to actually get it. And it matches in salary if I'm throwing in D'Lo as well. I can get a guy who can make almost, $50 million a year if I'm throwing in that type of package. So I don't know that the Lakers would be willing to move all of that, to be honest with you. I've already been on record saying if I'm throwing in Rui and Vanderbilt, I don't want to throw in a pick, but it depends on what I'm aiming for, obviously. It's easy to just say that until you find out something great is available and they want 2 picks on top of that. It's like, well, yeah, we'll do it. But For me, for a center, I don't know if any center in this league outside of the main names, the big guys, are really worth that type of package to me when I only have but 2 picks. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to be willing to do that for Jared Allen. You feel me? I'm not going to be able to do that for Rudy Gobert. You know what I mean? If he happens to be on the move or something, I'm not going to do that. But when you talk about a guy like Alperen Sengun, is he available? You know what I mean? You know a name that keeps coming to mind, even though I don't think he's the right ingredient for the Lakers per se, but it's like he's gonna have to move, and there ain't too many places that probably want him. And I think when you talk about explosive centers, you may be able to get away with calling him this, although I understand him not to necessarily really be that way. It's DeAndre Ayton. I can see a world where the Lakers trade for DeAndre Ayton, and I'm not totally against it depending on what we're giving up. I know his contract is garbage, but if I'm giving up D'Lo expiring, I'm giving up Rui expiring, I might be able to pull it off. I don't know that I want to do that necessarily, but it will be an answer for the center position. It will be an answer for getting us an opportunity to play AD permanent 4, for which he probably really wants, or semi-permanent. Ayton's fairly young. Ayton is a high-level rebounder. Defensively, I can't trust him, but how much do I need him to defend very well if I got Anthony Davis right next to him? And so, with Clingan having been drafted, I can tell you if Clingan's fully healthy and is any remote, if he's even remotely what they think he's going to be, they're probably going to be a better team with him on the floor than Ayton if you're Portland. He's just going to make you a better team. So you probably, before the end of the year, if everything goes well, you're probably going to want to move Ayton so that you can put Clingan in a position to get that starting spot. I feel like Portland's going to find out quickly, as they don't already know that Clingan's probably more effective than Ayton anyway. So that's just something I think is coming down the pipeline. 2 different types of players. Probably you don't want them coexisting, not in the long term anyway. So Ayton's inevitably going to move. His contract is not very favorable, but he is somebody that I think would help the Lakers in their future situation. He gives us a big that we can have in place just in case AD goes down. You still think you can make the playoffs if Ayton's given a bigger role in the event AD goes down. Bron is still available, or vice versa. You still got the Twin Tower effect with AD and Ayton. I think it's okay. I think it's okay, honestly. I don't love Ayton. Don't get it twisted. He has motor issues. He's not going to stretch the floor per se, although he was drafted with the understanding that he could shoot the 3. It never translated into the NBA. Defensively, I don't trust him. So there's a lot of stuff about Ayton I don't like. I ain't going to lie to y'all. But I like his age. I like the idea of moving AD to the 4 while still having a athletic center. And I believe he's a fantastic center in terms of conditioning. He's always in great shape. He's always ready to run a lot. He doesn't necessarily peg himself to be somebody who's injury prone. So, I don't want to pay top dollar for Ayton. But if the Lakers pulled off a trade to acquire Ayton's contract and they move salary that makes sense, I think it could be a plus for AD moving to the 4 and us having a permanent center. Or at least somebody that somebody else would be willing to trade for later on if we want to flip him later. I think he could be a very attractive idea for a package for something else later. So yeah, like for example, I think he's more attractive in the trade market than Valanciunas. I think Ayton could potentially be more attractive in the trade market than Vucevic. You see what I'm saying? Like Ayton just seems like the first overall pick, didn't completely bust. He still probably has an all-star game in his career at some point if he can ever put it together. Still fairly young for the most part, drafted the same year as Joe Doncic. So you know what I mean? He's definitely somebody that I think the Blazers should be looking to move. I know we've had a lot of conversations with the Blazers about Grant. Couldn't get Grant done. I think it's likely that they would be willing to move Ayton. But again, Ayton's contract is nothing to want. Don't get it twisted. There's nothing to want. But I think the piece, potentially if AD is going to be shooting the 3, could provide us a hell of a rebounding squad. That's what I will say. you immediately become one of the best rebounding teams in basketball. Immediately. And second chance points in such situations like that could be good for us. So I don't know. And I don't peg him as somebody who I expect to get hurt, as I've already said. So that's one name that I think nobody sees possibly being on the market, that I think I could totally see traded very soon. Somewhere within the next 2 years, he's out of there for sure. Klingen's in place. Unless Klingen goes down, you got to give Klingen that starting spot. No brainer. So that's one name that I think I could totally see something like that happen. I could see that, and I think depending on what the situation looks like, I'd probably be okay with it. And that's the thing, because everyone's so down on Ayton in theory. You probably don't want to move stuff that you really like to get him. But do I think he's a better player than Rui overall? Yeah, I do. I think he's a better player than Rui. He doesn't do the same things as Rui, but like just player for player, yeah, I'll take Ayton over Rui. Do I think he's better than Vanderbilt? He is. But you're much higher on those guys than you are him. That's the reality of it. I think the idea of Ayton is an underrated thing right now. So I don't know, man. I'm not advocating for the Lakers to just go get me Ayton. That's not what I'm saying. But I think that's a player that if they knock enough, you could probably get Portland to pry away from him if you want to. So that's something to consider, because I think that some of the other centers out there, if I'm being completely honest, they're probably not worth the price tag, man. You want them, but like a Valanciunas, I'm not giving up anything I want for Valanciunas. I'm not giving Rui back to the Washington Wizards for Valanciunas. Like, you do understand that you brought Rui here to develop for 2 years just to send him back to Washington, and you sent like 5 second-round picks to Washington to get Rui. Like, they fleeced you. That's all it is. You got really nothing out of that if you really look at it. So I would never want to do that. Plus, I don't think he would want to go back there, to be honest with you. I doubt he would want to go back to Washington. So, these are the type of things. It's just like, if we're looking at it the way I'm looking at it, I think it's possible all of this is that could happen, but just the same, it's probably best that the Lakers keep canvassing. Sorry, I'm trying to put some ice on this thing before it cuts off because I can feel it getting hot. But still there, everybody? Yes, you are. I dropped my phone, but luckily enough, I got a phone covering, so nothing happened. Thank goodness. But yeah, man, this is one of those situations where I think Ayton is a player that the Lakers may be interested in. They may want to kick the can and see if they can slot him next to AD and Bron, and you got a pretty big team right there. If you don't give up too much, if I could keep Vanderbilt out of that trade, I probably would. But I think Portland wants Vanderbilt, that kind of thing. I've already heard that, so maybe try to keep Rui out of it. But I think the salaries don't match if you don't evolve Rui and D'Lo or something like that. So it gets weird, but that's just me making up that rumor. Don't get it twisted. I've heard nothing about the Lakers being interested in Ayton at all. So I want people to be very clear. That's out of my imagination and ultimately rereading tea leaves at roster circumstances that otherwise should open up, to be honest with you. It should open up. So, yeah, Ayton is one. Sengun is probably who I would want, even though he doesn't stretch the floor. I just think he's going to be a superstar someday. And I do think that the Rockets are going to have to do something with their roster because they can't afford to pay all of the great players that they ultimately are going to have. And given the fact that Sengun has just dealt with the knee injury and is looking great right now, if I'm going to sell high on a guy that I think may have reoccurring knee problems but potentially be a superstar return for me, maybe if I'm the Rockets, I might be looking to move him. So I don't think the Lakers will outbid a bidding war for that kid, but he is on my wish list of people to add to Purple and Gold very soon, if at all possible. So yeah, that's one player I would love to have. And then his running mate, Jabari Smith. Like I said, they can't pay everybody. And Jabari Smith don't have as big of a role as he's supposed to have anyway, based on the presence of so many other players that play his position. You talk about Amen Thompson having to pay like 5 positions. And we're the most athletic player, arguably in all of basketball, if I'm being completely honest with you. It's kind of like an afterthought on their roster because they have so many other players that play every position. So they got to find a way to put him somewhere. You know what I mean? So it's like, they're not going to move Amen Thompson. Maybe they don't move Sengun in this scenario. Then maybe you move Jabari Smith. If you move Jabari Smith, former second overall pick, his numbers are not as inflated as they should be because he has such a small role for what he's actually drafted to become. I would love to get Jabari Smith from the Lakers. AD would probably still have to play some 5, But I don't think it matters as much because both of those players kind of do the same thing. And Jabari going to stretch the floor as good as anybody. Fantastic defensive player as well. He's projected to be. So that's one guy. If I'm the Lakers, I'm like, is there a way I can pry him away from Houston? Because they're going to have to give up somebody, man. And if it ain't going to be Sengun, it might be Smith. And if either one of them are on the move, I have either one or both of them on my wish list if I'm the Lakers. Definitely want Jabari Smith. And I think it's a buy low situation, too, if he would ever become on the market. I think it's buy low because I think that, like I said, his role is decreased in comparison to what he was supposed to be. If he would have got drafted to Orlando, his piece would be totally different. You would be seeing a much different player. So, yeah, when you start talking about the center position or putting somebody next to AD that I really want to see next to AD, you start talking about players like that. Evan Mobley, obviously, I would love to see those two paired together. They're basically doppelgangers. Evan Mobley is definitely not on the block, though. There's no way Cleveland's moving him. They move somebody else before they move him. But like that's what I want to do with the center big man position. I'm not interested in some of these washed up centers or some of these B-level centers. If I'm the Lakers, I'm going to be aiming for players that I think can supersede LeBron James, that can sit in the chair a little bit so that AD's not responsible for all the defense, could rebound very well, particularly stretch the floor very well, maybe be able to even handle some perimeter duties if they're asked to do so. It's the type of centers I would want on AD's team. So, yeah, Jabari Smith, Evan Mobley, Alex Sarr, all that young stuff. The young stuff, man. That's what I want. Honestly. If we can buy low on Alex Sarr, obviously they wouldn't want to move the player they just drafted. They have him for their future. But if for some reason they get low on him, you go get him. You go get him right now. While nobody thinks he's going to be anything but a bust, that's when you go pick him up. I kid you not, that's how I think. And then 3 years from now, we got a super team because them kids blew up. Jabari Smith, a superstar. They're like, yo, I told you. Like, that's how I move if I'm the Lakers. If I got to give up 2 picks, I'm not aiming for stuff that everybody else is conventionally telling me is available to me. Hell no, I'm aiming for something that really should not be in my grasp. I'm telling y'all the truth. I don't think the Charlotte Hornets would be interested in moving Mark Williams, but for some reason, if they are willing to, that would be somebody I'd be wanting to buy low on before he turns into what he's going to turn into. Walker Kessler's interesting to me, but for the price tag that Danny's asking for, I'm cool. I'm cool, buddy. No, thank you. Who else? Vucevic is somebody I already mentioned. I had a whole video telling y'all I think the Lakers could be potentially good for targeting Vucevic. I think he's still got enough in the tank, and you can put him next to AD to where he's not expected to be a defender, but he can take a lot of pressure off of him offensively, stretch the floor a little more than people expect, has all-star upside. He has in games where he goes for 20 and 20 and all this different stuff that he's been capable of doing. You do have to take into account he's going to miss games, but since he got to Chicago, he's been much more healthy than he was with Orlando, so maybe he can kind of withstand injury a little better than he used to be able to. Vucevic is not somebody I'm down on for the Lakers, even though you got to wonder if Father Time is going to catch up to him some point. So, like, these are the type of things I'm thinking about. I don't know what the Lakers have in mind. There was no idea provided to us about what type of player the Lakers wanted at center position. But for me, I want somebody young. I want somebody that nobody thinks anybody's going to move. And I want to put them in a Laker uniform with the intention to turn them into what it is they were drafted to be. Those are the names that come to mind. Jabari Smith is probably the number one guy, low-key. I just think that he hasn't turned into who he's going to be yet. And I think if he stays in Houston, he's going to continue to be a 15-5 guy, which is absolutely underneath what he's capable of doing. And when you talk about trying to stretch the damn floor, I think he could be one of the best shooters someday. You know what I mean? Like, I really believe that. He's totally somebody that I think could play the center position and stretch the floor as well. I mean, that boy was born to shoot the 3-ball. I kid you not. He was born to shoot it. So, yeah, the Rockets are not doing him the proper service by having him slapped next to somebody else and then, asking him to just kind of just get in where he fits in. Hell no. That's a number 3 on a championship team, in my opinion, if he develops to be what he's supposed to be. Probably a number 3. So, like, if I can get him while he's still a pup, slap him next to AD and learn next to Bron and AD, telling you, I know what a win looks like. I don't know what everybody else thinking, but I know what a win look like. So that's the type of stuff I'm thinking about, man. Obviously, if you're the Rockets, you're probably not looking to do anything like that. But if I'm Jabari Smith and his representation, that's a good move for me. Get me out of Houston. Houston is a fun place to play if you're a young player, but not everybody gonna get their money, man. And you don't know where you're gonna end up if they start shopping people. See, that's what I would try to sell him on. Because I know you're having fun playing with those youngsters. Everybody on that team should be having a blast playing with one another. But once they start realizing that they can't sign everybody, you may find yourself somewhere that you don't want to be based on the fact that you stayed on that team and they trade you. Because they're going to trade you to the highest bidder. You know what I'm saying? It's not going to be a situation where you got any leverage. So if you can find your way to a team that actually needs you a bit more, it may not be as fun because you ain't going to have a bunch of video game players to play next to, but you probably have a better chance of re-signing with that team or landing in a situation that's probably a little better later on for being in a market like Los Angeles. So that's what I would tell a guy like Jabari Smith. Like, look, you probably don't necessarily have the leverage to push your way out of a place like that. But if the Lakers are knocking on your door, I would do everything I can to make people know I want to go there too. Play next to AD. Straight up. Tell the Sengun the same thing. But I think Sengun probably has a better chance of re-signing with the Rockets. I just think he's the right type of piece that they probably be like, yo, let's keep him, let's pay him. But that knee injury threw a monkey wrench in there, in my opinion. And the presence of them continuing to have picks and not having good seasons also throw a monkey wrench in there. So, and another player I like, I don't know if he would necessarily fit great next to AD, I'm not really sure, is Nicholas Claxton. And I know he just signed a $100 million contract, so I don't know how soon that thing could be moved. But he's just rotting away in Brooklyn. Nobody even knows he's there, man. You know what I'm saying? He's a high-energy, rebounding defensive center who I think, in a nutshell, he's not going to have star upside like a Jabari Smith, but if he doesn't get much better than he is right now, he can still help a winning team. And he's just kind of stuck there, being a really good starter in a no-man's land franchise. Literally. Waiting for them to draft his successor so he can be pushed out of there any damn way. Like, honestly, that's exactly what I think of Nicholas Claxton. He re-signed there because that's the only place he's ever been. Comfortable, he's home, but that ain't a good franchise to be with. It ain't. It ain't. So if I'm Nick Claxton or Deron Sharp, his running mate down there, who's also kind of in the same position, they just drafted a center who might be pushing him for some minutes, both of those guys for minutes. Get one of them. Get one of them out of Brooklyn, man. Joe Tsai ain't doing nothing with the talent on this team. We know that. So get one of them out of Brooklyn. I think it would be a good idea. So yeah, that's the type of stuff that's on my mind. I'm sure there are other centers that the Lakers could go after. You know, I think of a guy that you could probably get for the cheap, like Joe Wiseman. He's in Indy right now. They don't really have the role for him, I don't think. A guy like Isaiah Jackson, who's also in Indy. That's somebody we drafted for them and ended up trading, I believe, in the AD trade. He was part of that somehow. That would be a good player to pick up. Not necessarily filling the role as main center, but just boosting your overall big man position, giving you better than what you have right now. I think he could be that kind of piece. So there's a lot of stuff, man. What I don't really want to see the Lakers do is get Valanciunas. That's a letdown to me. I know that guy's over the hill. I know his price is inflated to be what it used to be, and he's not that anymore. He would help, honestly, but on like a $5 million contract when I know I don't need him to stay healthy. If I'm getting him for Rui's price tag, I need him to stay healthy. I need him to perform well, and I'm not ready to commit that to him. I'm not. I don't think he's going to do it. He'll do it for small spurts at a time, but when it comes down to the nitty gritty, will he be available and will he be playing well when you need him? No, he won't. That's not a good bet in my opinion. I'm not, like I always say, I'm not looking to reach in the past. I respect that vets can really help us, but I already got vets. I got Ron Nady. I don't need no more damn vets. You understand what I'm saying? I need some youth. And I need my timeline to align with Max Christie's and Austin Reeves and Jalen Hood-Shafinos and all them dudes that I got. Young guys connect. I don't need to bring in more old. I really don't. So yeah, man, that's what's on my mind. I know I need to wipe my head. I've been sweating a lot. When I have to hold my phone this way, I can't wipe my head. Y'all see why I'm always wiping it, because I sweat like crazy. But that's good. That's why I'm walking. Try to get in shape, man. 40 years old, you got to take care of yourself, and that's what this is all about. So, you know, for taking care of our 40-year-old, we got to surround him with young players who can do what he does. High-level dudes that when he sits down, he can expect to still win the game. Literally, you know what I mean? And right now, we can't guarantee that Bron and AD can sit down and win a basketball game. We bring in the right big. Maybe they can help us with that by giving us just enough easy buckets and rebounding. Maybe we stretch the floor, defense a little bit, to where Austin Reeves, Max Christie, and whoever else is left after the trade can do the heavy lifting. Dalton Connect, they can do the rest. You know what I mean? So that's really what it's about. Can you get us a big that can take care of all the big man stuff? It's high enough level so that we can still beat teams like Portland, still beat teams like Charlotte when Bron and AD load manage. If that center can't help us with that, then he ain't worth the package he's like it's going to take to get him. So that's what I think of that situation. But we got a game coming up. I'm trying to get home in time for that. By the time this uploads, I'm sure it'll be after the game, which is why I really don't want to talk about any of that stuff. I have a pregame video I left you guys earlier. It should be uploaded for sure now. And of course, I'll do all the stuff I normally do. But that's pretty much what I got, man. My name is BDF44. I thank y'all for watching, and I'm out.